The handsome Kachi possessed a truly bizarre power. No matter how grievous his wounds, he would always survive. This earned him many titles, like the Ghastly King, the Lord of the Dead, or the Ruler of Immortality. At this moment, Kachi was single-handedly fighting the entire Griffin organization. He unleashed his infamous summoning art, calling forth a dragon of ruin to obliterate their stronghold. But in his final assault against Griffin's leader, Isles, Kachi was ambushed. His dragon was riddled with bullets, crashing to the ground. Yet, facing the wicked old man, he showed no fear. He knew the boss's true target wasn't his life, but this nameless stone. Knowing the man had searched his whole life for it, Kachi swallowed it whole, mocking the old fool. As expected, his face turned pale. He frantically ordered his soldiers to charge, to cut open his stomach and retrieve the stone. Kachi used every last drop of his mana to summon an army of the undead. A hellish night passed, filled with earth-shattering screams. But even for the immortal Kachi, this was the end. After what felt like an eternity, the shouts grew louder, waking him from his slumber. But what in the world? He felt like a mummy, trapped inside a cramped coffin, for the crime of assaulting an innocent woman. All of it was impossible for the new Iyushinun to accept. But then, he realized something. He had just struck the very person who killed this body. And now he was reborn at level 1. History was about to repeat itself, just like his old world. Iyushinun wept internally. He thought he'd finally be born with a silver spoon, as the eldest son of a powerful clan. But fate was cruel. He was about to face death all over again. Meanwhile, after Jinsong left, he returned home, smashing everything in a blind rage over the humiliation Iyushinun caused. Jinsang couldn't believe his formerly useless brother would dare to raise a hand against him. At the same time, Ulsan quietly hatched a new conspiracy, plotting to kill Shinun once more and complete the succession ceremony. The scene changes to the Blood Sun Valley, a forbidden zone from which no one had ever returned alive. 200 years ago, a great war took place here, shrouding it in a fog of deadly magic. Shinun came, here to practice his summoning arts. A place of death for the wicked would surely be teeming with powerful souls. In his first attempt, Shinun managed to summon a few spirits, but with his current strength, he could only subdue a single white soul. The summoning process was far more difficult in this new body. Because of the psychological trauma he'd endured, the voices of the dead echoed in his mind. Shinun gritted his teeth, bearing the agony. Pain like this could torment a normal necromancer, but for him, who had become numb to suffering, it was nothing. After a while, he successfully absorbed it, earning multiple achievements from the system. His proficiency had skyrocketed after using the skill, reaching a level far higher than in his old world. Shinun couldn't believe the system was this powerful, as if it were welcoming him back. He immediately tested a few skills, absorbing a vast amount of death mana. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he finally gained control of his body's mana circulation. While resting, and sensing the flow within his new body, Shinun recalled his old world. He used to store his unique mana in his heart, not his brain. This allowed him to avoid any side effects from the corrosive death mana. After a short break, Shinun summoned his low-level skeleton monster. Its combat power was low, but it was perfect for scouting. And yet, almost immediately, the monster vanished. Just as he predicted, the mana in this world was far too thin. Shinun could only extract. His skills were significantly upgraded, and he even gained 3 new support abilities. Though slightly disappointed, his soul extraction was now effective enough. He extracted 1 blue-grade soul and 1 white-grade soul. The blue soul was mysterious. It had very little death mana, but the energy radiating from it felt as destructive as death mana itself. Shinun hesitated. Should he choose the safer option, or give in to his curiosity about this mysterious power? In the end, his curiosity won. He absorbed the green soul. It felt hot, but there was no rejection as it easily merged with his mana circuit. Shinun eagerly tried to fuse this new power with his death mana, but a searing pain shot through him. The new power was violently rejecting his death mana. Shinun had to find a way to create a separate container, independent from his death mana heart. After a brutal struggle with the pain and energy drain, he succeeded, creating 2 different power sources within his body. He could now wield both mana and death ki. As a reward, he received a 30-day trial of a new art. Shinun realized he could store multiple types of ki, but mixing them would be incredibly dangerous. The trial he received was a sword art. Should he test it right away? Shinun summoned a skeleton soldier, channeling his ki without mixing it with death mana. He then initiated an awakening. The newly awakened skeleton soldier was, shockingly, 7 times stronger. Its power even surpassed Shinun's own. However, there was a catch. Summoning it required more than just death mana. Shinun tested the awakened skeleton's power. Its reflexes were extraordinary, though its stamina drained quite quickly. After letting the skeletons train for a while, he noticed that combining ki and death mana was incredibly efficient. This was great news for Shinun, because in this world, death mana was difficult to absorb. However, ki couldn't regenerate on its own. He had to find a way to absorb it or learn a martial art. The next morning, Shinun asked his servant about learning martial arts, which came as a shock to Wangsam. The young master, who had always avoided conflict, was now actively asking about combat. The martial art Shinun wanted had to be able to absorb ki that opposed internal energy. According to Wangsam, that sounded like a demonic art. Ever since the bloody war of the past, just mentioning the word demonic in martial arts could bring disaster upon oneself. Wangsam warned his young master to be careful with his words when outside, but Shinun paid it no mind, focused only on learning the art he desired. He asked about the clan's training hall and library. Through his servant, he learned of a study that housed books passed down through generations. He decided to see it for himself. Before leaving, Shinun also learned of the strongest person in the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan's history, India. 25 years ago, he founded a school and became known as the Bursting Sword Saint, famous throughout the world. In Shinun's imagination, the strongest in history must have had a grand army with overwhelming spirit. He began to dream of building his own army of skeleton soldiers. On his way, Shinun overheard whispers and gossip about him. Thanks to his mana-enhanced senses, they were crystal clear. But deep down, he couldn't care less about these pathetic insects who only knew how to bow. But for a true powerhouse, a ruined reputation is the perfect disguise. Now that he's hit rock bottom, no one's watching his every move. He heads for the Juyun library, but the guards there are Jinsang's lackeys. They try to block his path, intending to humiliate Shinun to get on Jinsang's good side. But this new Shinun is beyond their petty games. He unleashes his intimidating pressure. The terrifying aura freezes the guards in place. The ringleader stands there like a statue, his eyes wide with a primal fear, as if he just came face to face with a hungry tiger. He's so scared he wets himself on the spot, shocking the other guards. They can't comprehend Shinun's lightning-fast transformation. It turns out, this skill was the horrifying pupils. While it's not yet at its strongest, it's more than enough to handle the rats guarding the Blood Cloud clan's den. Inside the clan's headquarters, the leader, Ulsan, descends into a secret chamber. He's preparing some kind of ritual. The air is cold, dark, and littered with human skulls. The vice leader, Hariam, and a few other members are waiting for him. The topic of their conversation is none other than Shinun and his recent, unpredictable actions. Shinun's behavior has surprised them, but it's not entirely outside their calculations. Ulsan mentions how Jinsang was utterly terrified by him. The members of the Blood Cloud clan are furious. How dare that fool Jinsang provoke their master, especially after they've built up a power base just to support him. They've also received word that Shinun is at the Juyun library, reading books. They're already making plans, certain that their target knows nothing of true martial arts. Finally, they get to the real purpose of the meeting. It seems the Blood Cloud clan has something big prepared for tonight. A plan codenamed the Blazing Sky. Back in the Juyun library, Shinun is deep in his research, completely ignoring the hateful gossip from the guards. He doesn't have time for them. He meticulously studies every martial arts book he can find. Some are about deceitful techniques or demonic arts, but they carry a high risk of losing control. Shinun diligently searches for a martial art with a righteous and stable inner energy. After 8 long hours of research, he finally finds a technique that's suitable for now. Just then, a child carrying a box of damaged books, a freebie from a trade, stumbles towards Shinun's spot. Shinun stops the boy and has him lead the way to the collection of damaged books. The child is a little suspicious, but Shinun quickly puts him at ease, promising to buy him snacks if he helps find a few good books. The boy, named Janso Rion, eagerly helps out and finds a very old, tattered-looking book. Shin-un promises the child he'll treat him to a feast later. He then returns to his private room, eager to test the martial art hidden in the ruined text. It is a mysterious art. However, the book is incomplete, which will make learning it much more difficult. This power can envelop and absorb anything. Its rarity is high, and it might be the missing piece of his destructive power. The missing parts could be filled with dark mana, and by releasing his aura, that could complete his mana vessel. But in reality, it doesn't synchronize with dark mana. The fusion process is incredibly time-consuming and exhausting. Suddenly, a strange surge of power rushes towards Shinun and is absorbed into his body. He can't stop it, because his mana circuits are wide open. A system notification pops up. Someone has placed a death curse on his body. There's a high chance it was that bastard, Ulsan. However, for a necromancer like Shin-un, this is a massive gift. An energy overflowing with the stench of death is a blessing, not a curse. For a necromancer, Shin-un absorbs the power, gaining enough mana to form his second mana core. After absorbing the massive amount of mana, Shin-un successfully connects the 3 rings in his mana vessel. He achieves a rank up and gains new skills. His current strength is now equal to a B-rank hunter from his old world. His training speed is now leagues beyond what it was in his past. The influx of positive mana will also make it easier to receive the aura of a saint. After achieving so much from the system, Shin-un prepares for a new morning, even though he was up all night. Outside, his servant Wang-sam urges his master to hurry. It's time to meet his fiancée and her family. The Yumu family has arrived. The one stepping down from the carriage is 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 Yumiho, one of the 3 great beauties. Every man and woman bows their head before her goddess-like beauty. Miho puts on a friendly face for the crowd, enjoying their flattery. But inside, she feels nothing but contempt for these lower-class people. At the Chang'un Pavilion, Jinsang fumes at the empty seat before him, Shin-un's seat. He believes he should be the one sitting in that position of honor. The Chang'un sect master, 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆, arrives with his son, the 2 of them already arguing. However, the son knows his place, and respectfully greets everyone around them. The other sect masters of the Chang'un sect have secretly pledged their allegiance to Jinsang. They ask where the young master Shin-un is, but they all share the same wish, that he doesn't show up. Then, to everyone's utter shock, Shin-un finally arrives. His appearance makes Jinsang's face turn purple with rage. Shin-un brings his servant, Wang-sam, into the Chang'un pavilion to join the meeting. This impossible act infuriates everyone present. Faced with their insults, Shin-un fiercely defends Wang-sam, declaring him a good brother. He uses his terrifying gaze to silence those who dare to gossip. Jinsang has no choice but to back down, citing Shin-un's poor health as an excuse to let Wang-sam stay. With that settled, the meeting begins. The main topic is the Yumu family's arrival. They have 2 objectives. First, they want to terminate their previous consignment contract, blaming the family's workers. The second reason, of course, is a deeper, more unpredictable scheme. According to recent intelligence, the Yumu family has been frequently meeting with the Wild Slope Society, which infuriates the sect leaders. The Yumu family is clearly playing both sides. As Yumiho of the Yumu family is announced, she enters with a smile, but her distrust is clear as she brings her personal guards inside. Jinsang and the other masters exchange pleasantries, but the Yumu family gets straight to the point. They want to end their business partnership with the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 sect, using the sect's lack of a leader as their reason. The Yumu family leisurely gives the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 sect half a month to act. It's a clear threat, meant to force their rival to choose a successor immediately. Finally, the topic turns to the marriage between Miho and Shin-un. While everyone still thinks Shin-un is the same lovesick fool from before, he actively speaks up. He wants to cancel the engagement between their 2 families, a declaration that instantly enrages members on both sides. The real reason he decided to break off the engagement with the Yumu family had to do with something else entirely. Just moments ago, Shin-un ran into Miho, and the old memories, the familiar pain, came flooding back. On the surface, Miho was the picture of elegance and innocence. But inside, she was a vicious beast, full of schemes. She only got close to Shin-un because he was the heir to the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan. Behind his back, she was involved with someone else. She hid her disgusting primal nature behind a graceful facade. In a flash, Shin-un saw a vision of her being dragged away, covered in blood. Even then, she was spewing twisted, vile words. But these weren't memories of the past. Could this be a glimpse into the future? As time stretched on, Shin-un's mind filled with questions. How could he see things that had never happened? Was this the destiny that came with his new life? What secrets did this body hold? For now, Shin-un wanted only one thing, to train relentlessly and level up. Perhaps he could unlock a skill, a way to delve deeper into his memories and find answers. Back at the meeting, after Shin-un declared their engagement void, Miho's face turned purple with rage. The Gimu family erupted in fury, ready to cause a scene. For the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan, there was no reason to hold back. The Gimu clan's leader was furious and terrified. If the news that their young lady was rejected by someone like Shin-un got out, the clan's honor would be shattered, and his own life would be forfeit. To everyone's shock, the Gimu family's head finally made his move. The crushing aura of a peak martial artist radiated outwards, suffocating the air around them. Yet, it didn't even make Shin-un flinch. It turned out a 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan master was also present, releasing a counterpressure that pushed back against the 𝒏𝒄 clan's power. The 𝒏𝒄 family didn't dare escalate the situation. They wanted to reclaim their young lady's honor, but the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan was more than ready for a fight. Amidst the complex standoff, that snake Jinsang added fuel to the fire. He proposed a duel to settle the matter between them. In his mind, a plan was already forming. If an accident were to happen, it would be the perfect crime, easily blamed on carelessness. Of course, neither the 𝒏𝒄 nor the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan knew about Shinun's true strength. The 𝒏𝒄 family deliberately provoked Shinun and the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan, pushing for a duel. They knew a fight between a martial artist and a nobody was completely absurd. The 𝒏𝒄 clan accused the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 heir of being an irresponsible coward, running away after talking big. Jinsang sat beside them, his heart filled with glee. He believed this was the fate Shinun deserved. Without a single word, Shinun walked past the 𝒏𝒄 entourage and out into the courtyard. He had accepted the duel. Hearing that the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan's heir was challenging the 𝒏𝒄 family, citizens from all over the city flocked to the clan's martial arts arena to witness the spectacle. Under the gaze of countless eyes, the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 family worried for their young master. The man accompanying the 𝒏𝒄's young lady was clearly no ordinary fighter. The 𒒏𝒄𝒊 masters were hesitant to intervene, fearing how the public would see it. However, this was the perfect opportunity for Shinun to win their trust and prove he could be the next leader. If he failed, it was best he gave up his position as the successor. The 𒒏𝒄𝒊 clan could only watch from the sidelines. They could only step in if their young master was at death's door. Some thought his defeat was certain and just hoped it wouldn't be too humiliating. Shinun showed no hesitation or fear. He strode confidently onto the stage. On the other side, the 𝒏𝒄's young lady was putting on a show, acting weak to gain sympathy. But Shinun exposed her true colors for all to see. This enraged the 𝒏𝒄 family, who immediately sent a challenger forward. A few nameless lackeys from the 𝒏𝒄 clan were thrilled to step onto the stage. They knew if they caught the eye of Lady Miho, their futures would be incredibly bright. A man named Odan was the lucky one chosen. On the stage, Shinun angrily called out the Black Bear Iron Fist as his true opponent. The 𝒏𝒄 scrub's face flushed red as he taunted Shinun, telling him to fight opponents on his level, like the 𝒏𝒄 disciples. Shinun ignored him, turned back to the stage, and prepared for battle. The fight began. The 𝒏𝒄 fodder unleashed all of his power, hoping to overwhelm Shinun. He poured all his strength into a single punch, but with his current power, Shinun dodged it with ease. To the amazement of the crowd, the more Odan attacked, the more he missed. He couldn't even touch Shinun. Driven into a corner, he had to use his internal energy. He unleashed a technique called the Demon Wolf Fist. The moment he used his internal energy, the crowd began to jeer, mocking the 𝒏𝒄 clan for using such power against a non-martial artist. In the fight, Shinun realized he was being pushed into a corner. As the Demon Wolf Fist approached, he stood his ground and blocked the attack with his body. And yet, he didn't have a single scratch on him. Instead, the 𝒏𝒄 fighter's hand was radiating with excruciating pain. Everyone was stunned by Shinun's trick. Could he be wearing armor, or have wrapped his body in steel? But how could he move so freely? The martial artists in the crowd, however, realized the truth. Shinun had used external martial arts. Jinsang was shocked. How did Shinun know how to use such a technique? The 𝒏𝒄 clan, unable to win, resorted to trash talk. They accused the 𝒏𝒄 heir of using external arts on the dueling stage. Shinun, with his limited knowledge of this world's martial arts, had no idea what that even was. The 𝒏𝒄 clan members all stood up in protest, shouting that the 𝒏𝒄 clan used their martial arts first, so what right did they have to complain? The 𝒏𝒄 clan had no choice. They had to forfeit the round. But then, the Black Bear Iron Fist himself stepped onto the stage for the next fight. For a veteran of the underworld to challenge, a normal person was truly shameless. Shinun, filled with spirit from his victory, didn't hesitate. He told Black Bear to stop talking and get on with it. The match began. The Black Bear Iron Fist threatened the 𝒏𝒄 heir, saying he would regret this challenge. But Shinun coldly shot back that those who talk big are the first to fall. Every loudmouth he'd faced before had ended up crushed beneath his heel. The Black Bear Iron Fist was confident he could crush Shinun like a mosquito. He immediately rushed forward, unleashing a storm of punches and kicks, but he couldn't touch him. Although Shinun dodged with ease, he had to admit his opponent's speed was impressive. But his defense was airtight, leaving the Black Bear powerless to land a single blow. The crowd was in disbelief. How could a renowned master spend so much time fighting without being able to do anything to someone considered a complete novice? People began to mock the 𝒏𝒄 clan, sneering that their standards were so low they just recruited anyone who looked big. On the stage, the 𝒏𝒄 fighter grew more and more frustrated. In one attack, he revealed a fatal opening. Shinun instantly used the Shadow Mask, felling the Black Bear Iron Fist with a single punch. The leader of the Yi family, now truly enraged, unleashed his internal power, charging straight for Shin-un. But just then, a powerful aura slammed down between them. The challenger, known as Black Iron Fist, was thrown from the stage. It was the White Flower Sword, the technique of the Bak-un clan master. Instantly, everyone rose, forming a protective circle. The enemy had been defeated. Having lost all face, Jumiho's true beastly nature was exposed. She pointed a finger at everyone present, shattering the image all the men there had of her. The 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan demanded punishment for Black Iron Fist's malicious attack on their young master. But out of nowhere, a new figure appeared. With a single move, he utterly destroyed Black Iron Fist. This newcomer was 𝒏𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆, the Blood Corpse Hand, the strongest warrior of the Yi family. Not even the masters of the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clans were a match for him. Together, they could barely hold him back, hoping to prevent him from killing their young master. But Shin-un showed no fear. In fact, if the Yi family wanted to continue, he was more than ready to step back onto the stage. The Blood Corpse Hand, a notorious fighter, didn't shy away from the challenge. But this time, it was Jin-sang who stepped forward to mediate, suggesting the Yi family leave, much to the fury of the clan masters. In truth, Jin-sang feared that if things escalated, his own connections with the Yi family would crumble. On the other side, despite the simmering rage of his allies, Shin-un agreed with Jin-sang, letting the Yi family retreat. His strangely calm demeanor after such a tense showdown shocked everyone. They saw their young master in a new light, a stark contrast to the useless weakling he once was. As the Yi family departed, Jumiho loudly swore she would one day repay this humiliation. That night, at a forest shrine, two groups cloaked in black met under the moonlight. They spoke of the day's events. So, the plan is a complete failure. It was Jin-sang, meeting with a group of mysterious figures. With their old plan in ruins, they prepared for a massacre, set to unfold in 7 days. Just as the group dispersed, a dark, ominous purple energy emerged and rushed back toward Shin-un's residence. There, his servant, Wan-kam, was showering his master with praise after the morning's battle. He urged Shin-un to join the others to discuss strategy. Shin-un then revealed that when Black Iron Fist attacked, he never needed the clan master's help. He could have blocked the blow himself without any trouble. Faced with such genuine concern from someone not of his blood, especially when his own brothers were just waiting to stab him in the back, Shin-un's heart was moved. He wanted to see Wan-kam as a trusted brother, not as a lowly servant. As soon as Wan-kam left to let him rest, that same dark energy flowed back into the room. It was a power Shin-un used for reconnaissance, a shadow that could gather intelligence. It replayed the entire secret meeting between Jin-sang and the mysterious group. Shin-un now knew everything. In 1 week, Jin-sang would make his move, sending a team of assassins to kill him. Shin-un immediately began to formulate a counterplan. It had to be meticulous, as he didn't yet know the true strength of his enemies. At the Bloodbone realm, he continuously summoned skeleton soldiers. This alone was enough to rapidly level up his skill proficiency. Thanks to his virtuous death art, he could absorb the skills of the fallen skeletons, making them his own. His average stats soared, enhancing his combat abilities. Under the current circumstances, learning other martial arts was entirely possible, but Shin-un chose to master his existing skills. He decided to test his power against a high-level skeleton soldier. He summoned the strongest warrior in the history of the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan, a gold-tier skeleton with legendary martial arts. But the tomb showed no reaction. He couldn't even extract its aura. It turned out Shin-un's current level was too low to summon this legendary deceased warrior. This only deepened Shin-un's respect for the immense power of his ancestors. Compared to the masters of the martial world, he was not yet worthy of this power. But this failure didn't discourage him. He immediately began searching for the graves of other masters. Suddenly, a strange phenomenon occurred. The tomb of Yujiang began to glow. The skeleton's summoning gate opened, and the system announced a deceased warrior wished to follow him voluntarily. Through this, Shin-un achieved several new milestones. The temporary limit on his soul summoning technique was lifted, and his stats skyrocketed. A corpse with an iron sword at its hip emerged, radiating an immense green aura. This warrior must have been terrifyingly powerful in life. The system automatically adjusted the skeleton's level to match Shin-un's current strength. But this skeleton soldier was different. All of its skills were incredibly high-ranked, and its actions were unique. Instead of kneeling in loyalty, it walked straight towards Shin-un. The expression on the peerless swordsman Yujiang's face showed a flicker of interest. To express his choice, he reached out and directly transferred his renowned sword arts to Shin-un. At that very moment, deep in the forest, A group of assassins moved swiftly through the dead of night. A dark conspiracy was afoot. It was the Yi family, led by Lady 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 and the infamous Blood Corpse Hand. Their sole target was the young master of the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 revealed her sadistic nature, admitting the only reason she came was to watch her enemy kneel and beg for mercy before being torn to shreds. Truly a wicked woman. One who survives learning demonic arts is no longer an ordinary person. The Yi family assassins worried about what Ginseng would do after they had aided him by assassinating Shin-un. They stopped their bickering and picked up the pace, eager to complete the mission. But suddenly, it seemed the Yi family had been ambushed. One by one, their men were struck down by sharp bones that pierced straight through their chests. After a brief struggle, more than half of the Yi family's soldiers were dead. The mastermind behind the curtain finally revealed himself. It was Shin-un. He openly mocked them. "You dare call me a coward," he sneered, "while you sneak around in the dark to assassinate me?" The soldiers stood silent, with nothing to say. Shin-un pointed directly at the Blood Corpse Hand. "You must be the one leading this little operation." The veteran warrior merely offered a few dismissive words, but beside him, the hot-headed 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 blurted out the truth. "Yi Jinsung was the one who gave us this mission." The Blood Corpse Hand, a master of the martial world, remained perfectly calm in this situation. He silently scanned his surroundings, reassuring his clansmen. However, he never imagined that Shin-un would be completely alone, without any backup. Seeing his chance, the Blood Corpse Hand immediately channeled his power. He and his remaining soldiers charged, determined to take the life of the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆's young master. Shin-un unleashed a storm of bone shards, injuring and killing the Yi family's men. The technique consumed a fair amount of his mana, but from the soldiers' perspective, it was an overwhelming display of absolute power. The assassins were stunned by the sheer power emanating from someone as young as Shin-un. Blood Corpse Claw roared at his underlings to focus and crush their target, with overwhelming numbers. They swarmed in, believing Shin-un stood all alone. But as they charged, Shin-un revealed his trump card, summoning a legion of skeletal warriors that struck terror into the assassins' hearts. The men from the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan nearly wet themselves in fear. This was the true face of demonic arts. Gripped by terror, they began turning on each other. Blood Corpse Claw threatened to slaughter anyone who dared to retreat. With no way out, the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan soldiers gambled their lives, charging headfirst into Shin-un and his army of bones. A fierce, chaotic battle erupted in the forest between the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃 clan and the undead. As the fight raged on, the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃 assassins found themselves at a crippling disadvantage. They witnessed long-lost techniques from legendary masters of old. The Crimson Sun, Divine Art, the Black Tiger Fist, the Iron Fist. They realized a terrible danger was closing in. They were no match for these skeletal warriors. Spotting his chance, Blood Corpse Claw noticed that Shin-un was completely defenseless while commanding his army. He launched a single, fatal strike meant to send Shin-un to the afterlife. But suddenly, a wave of sword energy shot from the distance, blasting him away. He recognized it instantly. The White Cloud Sword, Saint. Defeated, he cursed himself for falling into the trap of a cunning demon like Shin-un. In his final moments, Blood Corpse Claw was powerless to resist. He could only let out a loud laugh, thanking Shin-un as his life faded away. And with that, his soul was claimed by the young master. He was reborn as a shadow skeleton, a supreme assassin who would prove incredibly useful later on. In a flash, only 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 remained, a lone witness to the slaughter. She stood frozen in terror, unable to move a single muscle. It was the effect of Shin-un's shadowbind technique. In her panic, 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 could only try to shift the blame onto that snake, Yi Jinsung. She put on an innocent face, playing the damsel in distress for Shin-un. She claimed it was never too late to start over. But Shin-un was sick of her games. He cut right through her act, exposing 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆's vile crimes, how she had been capturing and torturing men to satisfy her twisted desires. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 was stunned. How could Shin-un possibly know? Realizing her reputation was on the line, one thought blazed in her mind. She had to kill the young master of the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃 clan. She unleashed the demonic arts she had cultivated for years. She launched a sneak attack, intending to end Shin-un with a fatal poison. But 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 could never have imagined that Shin-un's resistance to poison was on a completely different level now. That pathetic amount of venom meant nothing to him. While 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 was still reeling in shock, Shin-un swiftly struck her pressure points, sealing her throat. She wouldn't be running her mouth anymore. He then unleashed Ruination, a skill meant for larger foes, but it proved just as effective for finishing off 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆. After making some preparations, Shin-un departed. His next target, his so-called sworn brother, Yi Jinsung. A few days later, on Jinsung's side, he still hadn't heard back from the 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆 clan assassins. Then news arrived that 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒃𝒍𝒆's corpse had been found in a truly gruesome state. He knew then that the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan had utterly failed. He was seething with rage. A card had been left near the body. He deduced the killer must have left it intentionally. Ginseng immediately suspected Shin-un. A flicker of fear entered his heart, making him far more wary of his stepbrother. Still, Ginseng followed the clan master's advice and went to a tavern to drink. He needed to blow off some steam, but the look they all exchanged was anything but normal. As soon as Ginseng left, the clan master revealed his true, wicked intentions. Sooner or later, he would purge the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan. He would accelerate his holy war using his army of blood asuras from below. He also ordered them to intensify the curse on Shin-un, believing his body might be resisting it. Meanwhile, back at Shin-un's residence, a crowd was buzzing outside his door, demanding to see him. But Wang Sam turned them all away. The young master wishes to see no one. Before he left, Shin-un planned to be away for a few days, instructing Wang Sam to forbid anyone from entering. He was to act as if Shin-un was always in his room. The real Shin-un had journeyed deep into the forest, finding a quiet, hidden cave to begin his training. During his meditation, he felt the curse's power surging stronger than ever. The masterminds must be furious that things weren't going their way. But for him, this power was incredibly convenient. He desperately needed to replenish his dark mana. The energy surpassed what his body could absorb, circulating throughout his entire system. It left him brimming with dark mana. Eager to test it, Shin-un summoned the shadow skeleton. However, it was just an ordinary skeleton, nothing special. Not like Yurang's powerful skeleton. Just as Shin-un tried to absorb the martial arts of Blood Corpse Claw, a hidden quest unlocked, the dying wish of Nam Sa-hyung. It was a desire born of intense hatred. Even as a pile of bones, he wanted Shin-un to pay a price. He would only pass on his techniques in exchange for one of Shin-un's arms. Shin-un simply unleashed his own overwhelming power, crushing Nam Sa-hyung's will with relentless pain. At the same time, he summoned his other skeletons to claim their martial arts. As he summoned more skeletons, even more hidden quests unlocked. It turned out he could acquire techniques from other dead warriors if he completed their final missions. It was all thanks to that accidental discovery with Yurang. But Shin-un wasn't reckless. He knew he wasn't strong enough to learn the first-class arts from these skeletons yet. He had to know his own limits. So, Shin-un diligently practiced the Thunder God technique and Thunder Cloud Key passed down by the White Cloud Sword Saint. The move was beautiful, but its power was pitifully weak. He finally understood the massive gap in strength between himself and the true masters of the martial world. But just then, Shin-un received a crucial hint from Yurang. He realized he had been relying too much on his dark mana veins, completely ignoring his normal acupoints when using martial arts. Yurang pointed to the mana points he had yet to open. Using the skill Radiant Light of the Eastern Sage, he forced them all open. Instantly, Shin-un received a flood of new achievements and masteries. His swordsmanship and martial arts skills skyrocketed on the system. He had gained so much in a single moment. Heart pounding with excitement, Shin-un headed back to the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan. In his room, Vice Lord Dong Jin-hoo felt a sharp pain flare up as he trained. It was growing worse each day. A mysterious agony with no known cause and no cure. A moment later, Elder No entered to check on his health, but quickly got to the main issue. The future of the young master, the heir to the clan. They had never truly trusted Shin-un, but his recent displays of power were beyond belief. How could an ordinary boy with no martial arts training defend himself against seasoned masters? The look on Shin-un's face after the battle with the Black Bear assassins brought to mind the infamous Demon Lord, Yoho. Back to the topic at hand, the 𝒏𝒄𝒊 clan's High Council discussed recent events. They noted that the actions of the Four Pillars and their leader were highly unusual. But as they spoke, someone appeared at the door. As Shin-un entered, the clan masters assumed the useless brat had lied again, blowing all his money on cards. They expected him to come crawling back, but Shin-un stunned them all, asking directly about Elder Jin-hoo's condition. The elder downplayed his illness, feigning indifference, but Shin-un saw right through it, stating his purpose was to save him. "Without my help," he declared, "you won't survive the night." During the treatment, Shin-un channeled his energy, forcing the poisoned blood from the elder's body. The masters grew anxious, but Shin-un signaled them to stand down. He was secretly impressed by Dong Jin-hoo's resilience. How could this old man endure such agonizing pain for so long? If it were him, he would have succumbed long ago. Shin-un recognized the same unwavering trust in him that Wang San had shown. These were the few who still stood by his side, so he poured all his strength into purging every last threat from the elder's body, even transferring his own internal energy to speed up the recovery. Finally, the information network was restored. thanks in no small part to New Zealand's support from behind the scenes. Once the toxins were gone, the elder felt his power surge higher than ever before. Both men stared at Shin Un, their jaws on the floor, unable to comprehend the miracle he had just performed. Just then, the system flooded Shin Un with notifications for a massive hidden quest, unlocking several new achievements. By absorbing the curse from Dong Jinhu, he had reaped enormous rewards. The elder offered his profound gratitude for the life-saving grace Shin Un had shown. Unfazed, Shin Un was asked how he detected the poison and cured it. He didn't hesitate to reveal the truth. He was afflicted by a similar curse, one he only learned about from his own father. Shin Un confessed that this very curse was what took his father's life, heavily implying who was behind it all. By the time he understood the curse, it was too late to save his father. To protect the family's honor, his father gave up, dedicating the rest of his life to finding a way to save his son. It was an ancient method, passed down through generations, a power capable of incinerating all evil, a dragon hiding in the clouds. The sky itself trembled as lightning crashed down upon the mortal realm. Legend called this power the lightning sword. Its might reminded Elder Jinhu of a legendary Murim warrior, Dam Chun Gun, who had saved him from an assassination 30 years prior. With this overwhelming display of power, Shin Un recruited Elder Dong Jinhu and the head servant, Ro Diung, to his side. His plan was already in motion. Such a flagrant display of strength made it easy to win their absolute trust. Suddenly, Shin Un thrust his sword toward the ceiling, instantly striking down an uninvited guest. It was an assassin whose stealth techniques could fool even the greatest masters of the Zhenghu. And the assassin's true identity was a shocking betrayal, one of the four pillars. A trusted figure for years, before Shin Un could interrogate him about the mastermind, the assassin foamed at the mouth and died. Poison hidden in a tooth. A final measure to ensure his silence. Seeing this, Shin Un knew he had to act. He would hunt down the true mastermind himself. Meanwhile, outside, chaos erupted. The Blood Cloud clan had attacked, disarming everyone in the city. The Blue Cloud clan assembled its forces, supported by the White Cloud clan. A fierce civil war broke out within the Majol clan. The Blood Cloud bastards cut down everyone in their path, following a plan orchestrated by Shin Un himself. The plan, made with the Blue and White Cloud clans, targeted Jinsang and the Blood Cloud clan. In the brutal melee, the Blood Cloud clan slaughtered innocents. The Little Cloud sect watched their own master fall to the enemy. Even with the combined forces of the White and Blue Cloud clans, they were losing ground until their leaders arrived. Shin Un appeared on the battlefield, exposing the Blood Cloud clan's entire conspiracy. When their leader tried to deny it, Shin Un pointed to their secret. "They have an underground facility," he roared. "If I'm lying, why don't we all go and see for ourselves?" With their secret exposed, the Blood Cloud clan dropped all pretense. They charged forward, aiming to slaughter every witness. The other clans rallied, uniting under their young master to fight back against the traitors. Against the enemy leader's ice energy, Shin Un had the perfect counter. He unleashed his undying yin aura, a power born from death itself. His deathly energy completely overwhelmed the leader's ice techniques. Combined with the lightning sword, a single, devastating strike was all it took to execute the boss. Everyone present was struck with awe and fear at the thunderous power of the lightning sword. The traitors tried to rally, relying on their superior numbers to overwhelm him. But Shin Un simply raised a hand. Without moving a muscle, he summoned spectral phantoms from the shadows, sending the enemy forces scattering in pure terror. These phantoms were a group of top-tier assassins. They were bound by a contract to protect him for 1 year, in exchange for the 12 lightning swords technique and the thunder god arts. Shin Un claimed that his ancestors had sacrificed their clan's martial arts to hire these guardians, a noble tale of protecting their children. The Bak Un family members wept at the tragic story. They had no idea it was just a brilliant excuse Shin Un fabricated to hide the true source of his power. He didn't want to explain the bone soldiers he had summoned. They looked like ghosts because he used a skill called the Shadow Robe, allowing them to hide in enemy shadows and conceal their forms. Shin Un's hastily formed assassin organization was proving to be incredibly effective. After a relentless hunt, the battle was finally over. Shin Un and his allies were victorious. The final targets were the two masterminds, Jinsang and Ulsan. Shin Un ordered everyone to storm the Blood Cloud clan's headquarters. He was determined to pull this problem out by the roots. However, upon entering, Shin Un found the building completely empty. Not a single ally or enemy was in sight. He instantly recalled the Blood Sun Valley. Ulsan must have activated a similar powerful formation, but this was perfect. Now, Shin Un could unleash his necromancy without holding back. Inside the Blood Cloud Pavilion, Ulsan raged. He couldn't sense a single trace of energy from his subordinates. Could it be? Were Harium and all the elites he sent out completely wiped out? Who in the Bak-un clan could possibly defeat his yin arts? Ulsan was certain his plan was flawless. He couldn't understand how it had gone so terribly wrong. Then it hit him. There was one variable he never accounted for. The abnormal death and rebirth of that useless young master, Shin-un. The trash of the family had been completely reborn. He was a variable that was truly unpredictable. Ulsan decided then and there, he would kill them all. With everything burned to ash, turned to nothing but dust, Ulsan stood lost in thought as Shin-un closed in on him. The scene was far beyond Shin-un's expectations. Unbelievably, Ulsan offered him the position of clan head, a succession to power. He promised to make the clan the strongest in Zhejiang within 3 months. But only if Shin-un would slaughter every last one of the old members for the sect's sake. Ulsan offered him all the fame and power he could ever desire. But Shin-un wasn't listening. With a single flash of his sword, he lunged at Ulsan, his very movement a condemnation of those twisted words. Hearing his offer spat back in his face, Ulsan's face flushed with fury as he launched a counterattack. He gambled that Shin-un's confidence was just a bluff, a relic of some ancestral martial art. But Ulsan himself was no pushover. The power that exploded from his body was immense, enough to make even Shin-un wary. If Shin-un could summon a legion of skeletons, then Ulsan had long been cultivating an army of Jiangshi. These undead puppets crashed into each other, shaking the very ground beneath them. Ulsan found Shin-un's necromancy odd, but he wasn't worried. Each of his Jiangshi possessed the strength of a peak-level master. Destroying them wouldn't be easy. But Shin-un saw through the ploy. Ulsan was stalling for time, preparing for something else while his Jiangshi swarmed the battlefield. In a flash, he devised a plan to annihilate the summoned horde in one fell swoop. Shin-un burned through more than half the power of his mana heart, unleashing the dreaded corpse explosion. The destructive force was beyond belief, yet it couldn't even scratch Ulsan. The energy this man wielded, it felt disturbingly familiar to Shin-un's past life. From the ashes, Ulsan rose, an intense aura blazing around him. He declared himself blessed by a demon god. Seeing Shin-un's amused expression, Ulsan was baffled. He wondered what other trump card the boy could possibly have besides that ultimate explosion technique. The questions surrounding Ulsan's power and his hidden secrets piled up in Shin-un's mind. There was only one way to find the answers. He would crush this bastard and uncover the truth. Ulsan's power clearly wasn't from some parasite, yet it didn't feel like the corruption of a monster either. A flicker of fear ignited in Ulsan's heart, but the pride from his demon god's blessing quickly extinguished it. In the blink of an eye, he vanished, aiming for a lightning-fast strike. But Shin-un effortlessly blocked the Blood Cloud sect master's attack with his bone magic. Ulsan's attack failed to inflict even a single scratch. His illusionary movement technique was amateurish, leaking mana and revealing his path. With a bit of extra effort, Shin-un's bone defenses made it impossible for Ulsan to even touch him. Enraged, Ulsan unleashed a curse technique. A single cut would drain his victim's blood in an instant. But with his soul arts, Shin-un easily deflected every single one of the vile curses. Ulsan couldn't fathom the depths of Shin-un's power. He switched tactics. If you can't beat the general, destroy his army. He intended to absorb the blood of Shin-un's subordinates. But what Ulsan didn't know was that Shin-un's minions were merely skeletons disguised in magic cloaks. They possessed not a single drop of blood for him to absorb. The traitor was seething with rage. Shin-un seized the golden opportunity, commanding his skeleton soldiers to counterattack. With no escape route, Ulsan launched himself into the sky, but he couldn't break past the swarm of bone soldiers. Even Shin-un was stunned. How could they possibly track his trajectory with such impossible speed? Ulsan was struck down. But as Shin-un approached the corpse, he had to wonder, was this just a temporary vessel, abandoned because it could no longer contain that monstrous power? If his opponent had used true martial arts, it might have been a challenge. But the power of those bastards was utterly pathetic to the current Shin-un. Techniques like illusionary blood spear and blood thorns were child's play to him. The real question was, how did his opponent wield the power of a vampire lord? The vampire lord was a true monster, a creature capable of absorbing the blood of its prey to amplify its own strength. In his old world, it was classified as a disaster-level entity. It was one of the strongest monsters out there, but for a hunter like Shin-un in his past life Kachi, they were just glorified pests. Their life-draining skills were useless against Jiangshi. With his past life's experience, Shin-un easily recognized the power Ulsan was using. However, in his previous life, it was a power that no human could ever hope to wield. Haunted by his former identity, Shin-un felt a strange sense of admiration. How could Ulsan possibly control the power of a monster? But just as he was lost in thought, he realized Ulsan wasn't dead yet. The man was still muttering. He insisted it was a power gifted by a demon god. After 1,000 years of waiting, Shin Un's focus locked onto those words. 1,000 years. Did that mean a secret organization had been accumulating power for a millennium, completely unnoticed, and descendant of the stars? Could it be a real divine entity? Shin Un needed more information from this man. First, he destroyed the traitor's core. Then, the interrogation began. But it was too late. The man's life had already faded. That's when Shin Un noticed it, a skin mask. Peeling it back, he saw the true face beneath, and old memories flooded back. Not his own, but memories from the other Yu Shin Un, from a parallel world, a world where Kachi was never reincarnated. In that timeline, the original Shin Un also revived and grew stronger, only to be killed by Ulsan and turned into a Jiangshi. These memories finally explained the vision Gumiho had shown him. After steadying his mind, Shin Un tried to probe Ulsan's mind about the Blood Cloud sect, but the traitor's consciousness had already collapsed. A high-level mental restriction had shattered his mind, making him unable to resist. Shin Un was left helpless, unable to gain any more information. A deep unease settled in his heart. To think that someone this powerful existed in this world. After finally defeating Ulsan, Shin Un, as always, received a flood of rewards. He was even more shocked when the system confirmed that Ulsan's power was indeed the power of a monster. What was the real truth behind the Blood Cloud sect? Outside, the fog began to lift. The Blue Cloud and White Cloud sects, along with their masters, charged in to protect their young lord. Everyone was overjoyed. Not only was their young master alive, but he had single-handedly caused the complete collapse of the Blood Cloud sect. After news of the victory spread, an air of celebration filled the ranks. Meanwhile, in a shadowy sanctum known as the Demon God Temple, a secret monthly meeting is underway. They're plotting something sinister, but an unforeseen obstacle has appeared. The problem lies in Zhejiang, the heart of the Baekun clan's territory. It seems their agents were utterly annihilated by a raging thunder bomb, one of the 8 forbidden weapons of this world, a weapon of absolute, world-shattering destruction. The masterminds speak of the Baekun's young master, a figure they once considered a complete nobody. Yet this nobody somehow defeated one of their 8 commanders. To restore the honor of their organization, they have made a decision. Shin Un must die. A few days later, a different scene unfolds. Having crushed Ulsan and his blood pattern sect, the people of the city and the clan celebrate with a grand feast, marking the end of a bloody civil war. This war had split the clan in two. On one side stood Shin Un, backed by the Blue and White Cloud factions. On the other, his rival Yu Hin, leading the treacherous blood pattern sect. The traitors launched a surprise attack when everyone's guard was down. But they were all swiftly eliminated by Shin Un, a man who was once known as nothing but a fool, a true piece of trash. But in the moment of crisis, he awakened a legendary inherited power. The story, however, was far from over. Hidden within the blood pattern sect's den, they found another raging thunderbomb. And a drugged-up Yu Hin, his rival, now a prisoner. Yet, even at the victory banquet, whispers of doubt fill the air. Many refuse to believe in Shin Un's newfound power, convinced the young master is just spreading wild rumors to cover his family's shame. But Shin Un's loyalists were quick to put those doubters in their place, giving them a lesson they'd never forget. At the same time, word spread that the Wasteland sect was planting fake news in the clan's territory. And they weren't the only ones. Major corporations, like the infamous Column Group, were also making suspicious moves in the shadows. And yet, despite the threats, a powerful belief was growing, a belief that Shin Un would usher in a new era for the clan. After his victory, he had become a figure of immense influence. He was now the master of the new Thunder Cloud sect, which rose from the ashes of the Blood Pattern sect. For the first time in ages, peace settled over the clan, but Shin Un himself remained behind closed doors. He had even acquired a new skill, memory manipulation. With it, he could erase the tainted history of the Blood Pattern sect. But such power came at a steep price. It required a massive amount of mana, far more than he should have been able to wield. But thanks to the mana stone he'd obtained from the vampiric ghoul, the impossible became laughably easy. Shin Un dove headfirst into his training, knowing the secret organization behind the Blood Pattern sect would be coming for him. Sooner or later, they would strike from the darkness. Reaching into his dimensional pouch, Shin Un pulled out a mysterious weapon. It felt strangely familiar, fitting his hand perfectly. He suspected it was a creation of the Guiding Sage, a treasure embedded with a powerful skill. Driven by curiosity, Shin Un attempted to channel his body's negative mana and impurities into the weapon. Suddenly, a strange phenomenon occurred. A distinct emotion radiated from the blade. It was a high-grade weapon with its own ego, a weapon spirit. It had the power to choose its own master, and it had not chosen him. A system notification confirmed it. Item usage failed. He then learned the truth. His body was severely lacking the natural energy needed to control such a divine treasure. With no way to absorb nature's power, he had no choice but to seal the weapon away for now. Returning it to his dimensional pouch, he refocused on practical skills. His new training partners? The corpses left from his battle with the blood pattern sect. The skeleton soldiers he summoned were shockingly powerful, on par with warriors from any mid-tier martial sect. The one summoned from the corpse of Harium was even a top-tier ice mage. Its base stats were average, but its agility and raw strength were completely off the charts for a mage. Could he have belonged to some bizarre school of battle magic? The skeletons were animated using demonic arts, a power Shin-Un could easily wield. But if anyone discovered he was commanding demonic minions, his reputation would be shattered overnight. His training complete, Shin-Un turned his focus inward, sorting through the original body's memories to uncover the truth about the blood pattern sect. But the memories were fragmented and hazy. Then, as if guided by fate, a new skill awakened: mental projection. His soul separated from his body, diving deep into the memory world of the original Yu Shin-Un. But inside, he was trapped, not by Shin-Un's memories, but by the memories of his own past life as Kang-Chi, a tragic childhood, a life filled with endless enemies. It all flashed before his eyes. Lost in the past, he felt a presence behind him. It was the spirit of the original Yu Shin-Un. Our main character tensed, fearing the original soul had awakened to reclaim its body. But the spirit had no such intention. In fact, he wanted to help. He wanted to reveal the truth of what happened in this world on the day of his death. On that day, the timeline fractured. Something had caused a split, creating two separate parallel streams of time, and then Shin-Un remembered. In his final moments as Kang-Chi, in his original world, he had swallowed a mysterious unknown stone. That had to be the cause. That stone had created a parallel world. A world where the original Yu Shin-Un had died. Shin-Un risked everything, projecting his consciousness into that alternate reality he had glimpsed before. Here, he witnessed the tragedy unfold exactly as he'd seen in the fragmented memories. He could feel the original's terror, his despair, but he was powerless to act. In this world, his body had become a living corpse, a mindless puppet controlled by the villain, Ulsan. As a controlled puppet, Shin-Un was forced on a brutal rampage, slaughtering countless innocents. The corpse fed on hatred and blood, its power growing with every life it took. Inside, Shin-Un's mind screamed. He was helpless, wanting only to end the nightmare, to turn the blade on himself. But his body was no longer his own. The living corpse grew stronger with every drop of spilled blood. This vile creature could absorb the power of its victims, fueling an endless cycle of slaughter. It unleashed a bloodbath, unprecedented in the history of the martial world. For his cruelty, the puppet was given a fearsome title, the White-Eyed Blood Demon. Under its devastating power, in just 2 short years, no family in Zhejiang could dare to challenge the Baekun clan. And yet, the true masters pulling the strings were terrified. They feared that deep within the monster they created, its original soul was not yet completely broken. Even in this reincarnated world, Shin-Un desperately sharpens his senses, trying to memorize and gather every scrap of information on the blood demon cult. But it wasn't easy. This new body was drowning in pure hatred. For 2 long years in the parallel world's memory, Shin-Un had been a bloodthirsty demon. His power grew with every soul he consumed. Then, during an assassination mission, Shin-Un stumbled upon a clue about natural energy. It was a power that could activate the treasures in his bottomless bag. This energy was an enigma. If he could tame it, maybe, just maybe, he could finally break free from the cult's chains and act on his own will. A perfect, hidden plan began to form in his mind, waiting for the right moment to strike. To sever the chains that bound him, Shin-Un silently apologized to the innocent lives he'd taken on his path to freedom. After enduring 3 brutal winters under the blood demon cult's control, Shin-Un finally found a way to break their hold and reclaim his body, using the power of natural energy. However, in doing so, he indirectly helped the blood demon cult complete their horrific plan, the utter annihilation of every citizen and warrior in the city. As the situation devolved into a living nightmare, no one was left to fight for the people. They were all dead. The scene suddenly darkened. Figures appeared, claiming to receive prophecies from a demon god. They arrogantly raised their blades to a new world blessed by their master. But before the ritual could be completed, Shin-Un, with his mind and body finally his own, lunged at the organization's leader. However, the gap in their power was a chasm between heaven and earth. Though he was defeated, he managed to perceive and burn the face of his ultimate enemy into his memory, an enemy he would have to face if he returned to this reincarnated world. And just like that, his life in the parallel world ended, a sacrifice to a demon god. Shinun's original soul returned, blazing with a furious rage and a new purpose. He had to change this world. The Blood Demon Cult was a fanatical organization, bent on bringing ruin and apocalypse to the world, all under the guise of purification. Their discipline and power were beyond anything Shinun could imagine. As a jiangshi, they had granted him a strength that transcended the highest levels, so formidable he could even fold space itself. An overwhelming storm of demonic chi and natural energy infused his blade, and yet, compared to their true master, that power was a mere grain of sand in a vast desert. He couldn't even leave a scratch. The final boss possessed a power that bordered on the absolute, a level completely untouchable. Even with the full strength of his previous life, defeat was certain. His power as a living jiangshi had nearly reached his former peak, and it wasn't enough. Shinun realized he was destined to face a being that transcended both humans and monsters. Inside his soul, the Shinun from before his death spoke to him. He said that surrendering to fear back then would have been no great shame, that from now on, he should focus on his own survival. But the reincarnated Shinun thought differently. In his dictionary, the word surrender didn't exist. If there was fear to be felt, he would be the one spreading it to his enemies. Shinun laid out his plan. In the next 5 years, he had to evolve, to surpass the power he once held as a jiangshi, and defeat the master of the Blood Demon Cult. Nothing was certain, but Shinun held an unbreakable faith. Within 5 years, he believed he could overturn destiny itself, or at the very least, interfere and stop those bastards from achieving their world-ending goal. Before these courageous thoughts and iron will, his former self's frozen heart began to beat once more. He placed all his faith and hope in this new body, believing it could change the fate of this martial world. The Shinun, from before his death, shared the last fragments of his original soul. He passed them on to his reincarnated self, the crushing guilt for those who died by his sword, the heart-wrenching sorrow for a father poisoned by his own brother. All of Shinun's unfulfilled rage was now poured into the soul of this body. As his former self found peace, he awoke, returning to the present timeline. He'd gained several hidden achievements and necessary rewards. Shinun knew this was where it all truly began. To think the Baek clan was safe from the Blood Demon Cult now was completely naive. It was a fatal mistake. The cult was targeting every single member of the clan for extermination. And of course, Shinun would be the one to stop them. One of the commanders he'd heard of had likely infiltrated deep into one of the most powerful sects, influencing their every move from the shadows. Shinun didn't know his exact location yet, but he was already on guard for any suspicious moves from any bastard. The identity of Kwanzan's superior was likely someone all too familiar to the city's warriors, a man who has ruled the Knights of Hangzhou, leading the Blood Demon Cult for decades. The leader of the Kowloon sect, the Black Heaven Tyrant, Yon Qianhong. But there was a silver lining. With this knowledge, Shinun realized he wouldn't have to travel far to kill his true enemy. However, assassinating Yon Qianhong right now was impossible. He needed to get stronger and help the Baek clan grow. Suddenly, a loud shout from outside. Something big happened. The scene shifts to one day prior, right after the bloodbath. With the Baek clan being targeted by the Blood Demon Cult, the sudden lack of supply shipments was a massive blow to their business. In this dire situation, many couldn't understand why the key to their victory, the young master Yu Shinun, had suddenly locked himself away. Meanwhile, on a transport route deep in the forest, his men were gathered around a campfire at night, when suddenly, they detected traces of an intruder. The newcomer was none other than Yu Hakjin, the heir to the Huangmok sect. He arrived with a formidable army in tow. He greeted vice sect leader No. The two seemed to have met before, but the vice leader of Huangmok was infamous for his cruelty and a heart filled with jealousy. After a brief, tense exchange, the Huangmok sect demanded the Baek clan's campsite for their own. But faced with the firm resolve of the Bak clan's warriors, the men of the Huangmok sect prepared themselves for a bloody clash in the dead of night. The air crackled with tension. The merchant guildmaster, Jiang, rushed forward to defuse the situation, realizing he knew this rival guildmaster. But that faint connection meant nothing. The man refused to yield, demanding Jiang surrender the entire campsite. Seeing the merchant guildmaster hesitate, unable to refuse, the rival leader unleashed his oppressive aura, intent on crushing him right there. The sheer force was overwhelming, draining the life from Jiang's body as he was brought to his knees. In a flash, his vice master, No, channeled his own energy into his leader, saving him from the brink. Defeated, the guildmaster had no choice but to concede, whispering to his vice-master to stand down and let the rival guild share their camp for the night. The victorious guildmaster swaggered into their territory, while Vice-Master No watched with clenched fists, his powerlessness stinging. But he knew these thugs were planning something more sinister. Immediately, he turned to one of his guards, giving a covert order: "Take our fastest horse, ride for the main sect, and inform the sect master. A conflict with the Huangso Rampant Slope Guild is imminent." He calculated that riding without rest, the message would arrive in 4 hours. If reinforcements set out immediately, it would take another 4 hours to reach them. If Father and the elders can make it, we might stand a chance, no matter what they throw at us. He could only pray for a quiet night, but that hope was shattered 6 hours later. A piercing scream echoed through the camp. The rival guildmaster held a young girl at sword point, accusing her of theft. Vice-Master No and his men immediately drew their weapons, surrounding them. The girl's face was drained of all color, pure terror in her eyes as the cold blade pressed against her throat. She was accused of stealing, but she could only sob, pleading her innocence. She tearfully claimed she had no idea what a frost jade even was. The guildmaster sneered, explaining a bismuth frost jade had vanished from his caravan. And then, this very girl was spotted slinking around the edge of the forest near our camp. He declared she must have used the cover of darkness to steal the jade and hide it. His terrifying glare silenced the girl with fear. The other side protested, insisting their young miss would never touch another's property. "If you have no proof, then let her go." Hearing this, the guildmaster let out a contemptuous laugh. He tightened his grip, planning to drag the girl back to his guild for questioning. Vice-Master No's mind raced. Reinforcements were still at least 2 hours away. He had to stall, but he couldn't see a way out. The guildmaster demanded compensation, or else they would take the girl. But as he finished his threat, a blur of motion slammed into his arm, snapping the bone with a sickening crack. He howled in agony. The girl was free, while everyone stared in shock, wondering who had intervened. A confident laugh echoed from the darkness of the forest. From the shadows, a young man appeared, majestically striding forward with his warhorse. He stepped into the light and called out, "What do you think you're doing to that child?" The moment the guildmaster saw him, everyone's spirits soared, and that's where we'll leave it for now. Go hopes you enjoyed this. Please show your support with a like and a share. It gives us the energy to bring you more amazing stories.